G'day, this is Ghost Wolf, and today I'm building a ship in a bottle. Now this isn't the most original idea in the world, but this shipwreck is on the beach right next to my woodland mansion. It was almost completely intact, and it just begged to have something decorative done with it to make it a feature. So I'm inviting you to join me as I muddle my way through what is basically a perfect example of how I dive into things with absolutely no planning and the attitude that I'm sure it'll be fine. Before I started this build, I did count how tall the ship was, so that I would know the diameter of the bottle, but I didn't do a very good job of that because by my count the ship was 22 blocks high, I think. So I decided that a radius of 12 blocks would be sufficient. Once I got up to the top of the ship, however, I realized that I would actually need an odd number in order to make it symmetrical. And so I increased the diameter to 25 blocks. And later you'll see that that only barely reaches underneath the ship. So I probably should have made it 27. So if you're building a ship in a bottle, my recommendation is that your bottle diameter be 27 blocks and that the ceiling is 3 blocks above the central mast, which is the highest. So I decided to start with the ceiling, which probably wasn't the smartest of ideas, but the top point of the central mast was the only reference point that I had. So without having planned things out, it was the only place I could really think of to work from. So having finished the ceiling, and not having any idea where to go to next, I built out the shape around one side and decided to start working up from the bottom. And here, I've made my first mistake. And it's not a big one, but it's finally occurred to me that I am going to need some way to get in and out of this bottle. So that means breaking this glass that I've already laid. I do have a Silk Touch pickaxe, but for 3 blocks of glass, or the occasional one that I put in the wrong spot, it just wasn't worth going and getting it. And this build was just going to require so much glass anyway that I really didn't feel the need to mess around with the Silk Touch pickaxe. And so I've just double timed most of this. I mean, you know what placing blocks looks like. If you wanted to spend 3 hours looking at someone positioning blocks, you'd play your own game, I guess. And So I've moved on to the other side, and this is how I do things. I tend to jump around a lot. I tend to go back and forth and pick up new areas, depending on what seems like a good idea to me at the time. And I'm trying to get rid of the squid. Squid are just the dumbest. And here I'm about to make my first pretty big mistake. Yep, there it is. Now, on the topic of squid, they, like I said, they are just the dumbest. And they will beach themselves regularly. By the time I was finished this build, I had 40 ink sacs. And all of them I just picked up from squid that had beached themselves while I was working. And you can see I'm thinking about what I'm doing, and I still haven't noticed that the sides don't match up. It will come to me. I promise. Not having the luxury of being able to fly it's a pretty big hindrance. While I was building this, I was wondering if perhaps it would have been a better idea to have tried it underwater first. And oh, here comes the realization. And that doesn't look like that. That doesn't look like that. That is supposed to look like the other one. Okay, so I fixed it up, and as you can see, it just skims the underside of the ship. Now I'm gonna double speed this, and I really feel like sped up video just cries for Yakety sax. If you aren't familiar with it, it is the I'll let you listen. Okay, I won't make you listen to any more of that. So this is the easy part of the build. Despite all the pillaring up and diving out into the ocean, this is the straight sides of the bottle, so it's just that one size of circle. So all I have to do is fill it out for the entire length of the ship. You can see I only have 4 stacks of glass on me, which it was a slightly weird but conscious decision that I made. Like, each time I went back to my base to get more glass, I only got 4 to 6 stacks, even though I knew just how frequently I would have to come back. And so I've put a gap there because I thought that I could dig back down via that pillar of dirt, and then I could just plug the hole on my way out, which would have been really convenient. You can probably tell that that's not what I ended up doing, but that would have been the easiest way to get that dirt back, and you'll see later what I ended up having to do. And I've counted myself 1 row short, which I think was kind of obvious. Like, if you were watching from the start when I was determining how long this side needed to be, and I was looking at the back of the ship for comparison, I'm pretty sure that I was, like, you can see that it's 1 row too short. So realizing here that I've now got to add an extra row here, that's when I changed my mind and decided that I was going to take the waterway instead of digging down that pillar. I have to keep looking up because I keep forgetting where I am. Like, I will look at something, and then in the time it takes me to look down and place a block, I will not so much have forgotten where I was up to, but have lost the confidence that I'm in the place that I thought I was. Now with the easy part done, it's time to put a base on the bottle, and I am absolutely freestyling it right now, which is probably not the best idea to do in glass, although I do have a ton of it and I'm not hugely worried about wasting it. But all I really knew at the point where I started this was that I wanted the base to curve inwards and not just be flat, and that I wanted it to have a little dimple in the middle so that it looked more like an actual bottle. Beyond that, I had no idea what I was going to do or what it was going to look like when I was done. And as I come across the top here, I hit the same row block that I got when I was putting on the ceiling, which is I really have no idea how to build downwards in survival. How to sort of do underhangs, if that makes any sense, because I needed to be able to place the dirt blocks in order to support the glass blocks. And if anyone can give me some advice on that, then please post in the comments, because yeah, I'm a bit of a derp when it comes to stuff like this. So one of the things that was really tripping me up as I was doing this was the fact that I wanted to keep the beach intact. I wanted the bottle to merge into the landscape so that it didn't just look like it had been plunked there and didn't actually belong. But because the beach cuts off part of the base, and because symmetry has never been my friend, ever, it was really messing me up trying to work out how to put this base together. And not being able to fly as you can in creative mode meant that this process of stepping back and trying to see what you're doing was a lot harder. And so I found that working in glass is also not exactly the easiest. And so I found that from underwater it was a little bit clearer where the edges of the glass were. But I'm still mostly going about this in a pretty haphazard manner and just throwing things at the build to see if they stick, and also failing to jump because I am very uncoordinated. Each time I pause like that, it's because I'm checking against the circles reference and trying to see if what I'm doing matches up with what I'm supposed to be making. And I will spare you the wonderful sound effects of me jumping off there. I have tried to jump in that pond, but apparently I'm no good at that. And so here comes my next, it's not a big mistake, it's just a dumb mistake. But for some bizarre reason, I thought, oh look, another dying squid. What a surprise. For some reason, I thought that where that dirt block staircased up was the center of the build. And so now I'm coming up here and I'm looking at the center of the ship and it's not lining up. And I'm thinking, that was just stupid. I mean, how do you get the center of 5 blocks so very wrong? It shouldn't be that hard. But what I'm doing here is, now that I've got the outer curve and most of the flat from the base done, I'm putting in the center of the dimple. so that I can expand it outwards to meet the base. So at this point I'm basically choosing how deep that dimple should go and what size the center, which is the smallest part of the dimple, is going to be. And so I'm just trying to get, like, I'm just stepping back and trying to get a feel. It's all guesswork, and I am frankly astounded at how much of what I did ended up in the final build. Like, I just whacked that base on there with no real foreplanning, and it worked. And I feel very lucky for that. Same thing with the dimple. I picked a size. I decided that I wanted a 7-block diameter because anything smaller than that was really starting to lose the circular shape. But as for how I positioned it in relation to everything else, 100% pulling that out of, out of my ass. A big part of why I made this video is because, and I've said a dozen times, that, in survival, you don't get to fly, and that has made things, 12 times harder. So I wanted to make this video that was just me doing the thing in survival with all of the messy pillaring and dirt support blocks that you can't just knock out, because in creative you'd be able to use glass because you have an infinite supply, and I just wanted to show something a little bit different, I guess. This is my survival world, and part of the challenge is making things with the survival limitations. I unfortunately don't have footage of me finishing this base, and that's probably a good thing for you guys, because it did involve a lot of me standing and looking at my construction in utter bewilderment, and a lot of running back and forth as I tried to get a better view of what was going on. But this video has been crazy long already, and if you are still watching, then oh my god, wow. If you are a bit of a masochist, there will be a part 2 Tuesday next week. It should be shorter, where I just finish off this build and do a quick run around to show you what it looks like. But until then, that is it from me. Cheers!